Hi, I'm Ron Dunn. I'm from Gleason, Dunn, Walsh & O'Shea. We're the attorneys for the New York State PBA. We're here with the folks from Corning Place Communications to do some training for you so that the delegates of the PBA can provide the quality representation that we all need. So now we have the member and the delegate have gone through this interactive process. The member has explained to the delegate exactly what happened to them or what they believe happened to them. And the delegate and the member together have identified those sections of the collective bargaining agreement that they think are involved in this case. So how do we go about determining whether or not the contract grievance has merit? We start by looking at the exact language of the document. Because in fact, what we're trying to do in a contract grievance is we're trying to get the state of New York to live up to its agreement. Give us exactly what we promised we would give you. So we start by looking at that language. Come to find out that what we agreed to at the table sometimes isn't crystal clear, but sometimes it is. So we have to first determine, what did the parties mean? What did we agree to? Exactly what did we mean? We start by looking at the exact language. Because in every case, if the plain language of the agreement is crystal clear, if it determines whether what the parties have to do and under what circumstances, that's the end of the discussion. The parties have to live up to exactly what the plain language requires. More often than not, it's not clear. It's what we call in the legal business ambiguous. Because either it's all in English, so the words have a dictionary meaning, but as you apply those dictionary words, the dictionary meaning, to the facts, it's kind of ambiguous. It's not completely clear what the parties meant back when they were at the table when it is applied to the specific facts as they occur out in the field. In that circumstance, we have what's called an ambiguous term. So when you have ambiguity, we have to apply certain tools for interpreting what the parties meant, what they agreed to do in this circumstance. Because we want to always, again, going back to what our touchstone is, make the parties live up to the exact agreement that they made, even though under this circumstance, under these facts, the terms are ambiguous. So we need to determine, what do they mean when they did this? That's called ambiguity. So we use the certain tools. The first tool that we use, and it's quite logical, is immediately after the parties entered into their agreement, what did they do? How did they act in this circumstance? That's what's called past practice. What the parties did in the past to apply this section of the contract to these facts. It's called past practice. That past practice evidence is the best evidence for determining what the parties meant when they entered into the precise language when you apply it to this particular set of facts. So that's frequently the circumstance when we're dealing with a contract grievance. So as a delegate, when you're interacting with a member, it's very important to get clear, how have we interpreted this section in the past? Has it been interpreted consistently? Has it been interpreted inconsistently? So we need to know all of those detailed facts. The other thing we need to know is, has there ever been a dispute about this in the past? Because if there has been a dispute, if there has been a disagreement between the union and the state, or at a more local level, between a supervisor and a member, if there's been a disagreement in the past, and that disagreement has been resolved in a particular way, that resolution is evidence of what the parties meant when they applied this particular contract language to these particular facts and circumstances. Okay, let's use a real-life example. Under our collective bargaining agreement, we have grades of salary that increase over time. And they increase on specific dates. based on your years of service. So one question that comes up is, am I entitled to an increase in pay because of my years of service? Now, certainly, the contract language is very clear. It's all in English. Every word in the contract is well defined in the dictionary. But sometimes it becomes ambiguous because as we apply the facts to that circumstance, we're not sure how we interpret that clause as to what we agreed to do. For example, if we have someone working in parks that came from a prior or from a different state agency, does that prior time in working for the state, albeit not for parks, count towards the years of service under our collective bargaining agreement? Or, by contrast, sometimes we have people who worked outside of our bargaining unit. They might have been a supervisor or in a management confidential position that was not in our bargaining unit. Does that time working for the state of New York, even working for parks, does that time count towards the period of time necessary to earn that higher wage rate, that higher increase in pay? So that's a circumstance where clear contract language, we need to look at the past practice of the parties to determine what that contract language means. How have we treated that service outside of bargaining unit service for the purposes of interpreting whether someone is entitled to an increase in pay? Similarly, we look to see whether or not there's been some dispute between the parties, whether it's a contract grievance or a settlement that illuminated what the parties felt that meant as to what this contract clause means. Because we go back, if the contract is crystal clear, past practice is not relevant. It's not relevant. But if the contract is unclear, or if you, as you apply the facts to this, it's ambiguous, under that circumstance and under that circumstance alone, past practice is relevant. Let me reiterate one very important thing. In order to have a contract grievance, you need specific contract language. Either crystal clear, in which case the past practice of the parties is not relevant, or ambiguous as applied to the facts, in which case the past practice is relevant. If, however, the member can't point to a specific contract clause and instead is saying, we've always done it this way, but we've always done it this way, the past practice is not specifically referred to or doesn't have a contract hook, that's a past practice that's not based on the contract, and we do not have a contract grievance. We may, however, have something else, which will lead us to the next part of our training.